Hey, Brandon here, host of the Devy Deep Dive podcast and creator of the Devy Dashboard. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. Super excited about this rookie profile film. We're going to be talking today about Arizona running back Rachaad White. He is a hot name right now in the running back draft discussions on Twitter and on the internet. Nonetheless, if you enjoy this film, man, please hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification button. I've got tons of these rookie profiles coming, probably one or two a week for the next 2 months. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the episodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Devy Deep Dive. And if you're interested in the Devy Dashboard, hit me up in the notes below and send me an email. Would love to send you some information about it. And please leave a comment on this film, man. I love interacting with people. Tell me if you think I'm right, if I'm wrong. I can tell you right now, I am not as high on Rachaad White as most of the NFL draft community, or at least the Twitter community. So you're going to see that as we talk about this guy, as we get into his production and analytics and his film. All right, so let's get right to it, man. We're going to be joined again today by one of my favorite guys in the film room, Corey Pierre, a Dashboard contributor. So we're going to see him shortly. But before we do that, man, let's just go over his production, his analytics, and see what Rachaad White is all about. He is 6'2", 210 pounds. He is a 3-star prospect, a JUCO prospect. He played his sophomore year at Mount St. Antonio College back in 2019, but he is a senior this year. At age, he will be 23 when he hits the draft in April. So let's talk about his his production stats. Like I said, 2019, he was a JUCO. He was at junior college. He had 199 attempts, 1,264 yards, 6.4 average, and 10 TD. Certainly productive. In 2020, he ended up calling up Herm Edwards, I guess, and said, hey, I want to come to Arizona State. So that's where he went. Shared the backfield with Diamante Traynham, who was another kind of exciting running back who has since, I think, has transferred and is not even a running back anymore. But nonetheless, back in 2020, he had 42 attempts, 420 yards, averaging 10 yards a carry, and had 5 touchdowns, splitting that backfield with Traynham. But in 2021, this is what everyone's excited about. He took over that backfield. He had 182 attempts, over 1,000 yards, averaged 5.5 yards a tote with 15 touchdowns. So 2021, he broke out here. He's a late breakout, but nonetheless, people loved his ability running the ball. And of course, he caught 43 balls also. So I think a lot of people are really excited about his pass catching ability. He certainly looks like he has natural hands, as we're going to see when we get to the film room. All right, let's talk about his market share numbers here. He had 40% rushing yards. So you can see he really led that backfield with the majority of the carries for the season, especially towards the end of the season. He was really productive. Receiving targets, he had 20% of the receiving targets, so that's really good for a running back. That shows you that he was used in the passing game, and with 43 targets, he did very well in that passing game. Offensive yards, he represented almost 30% of the whole offensive yards for the team, so he was a very productive player. That's one of the reasons why people are certainly excited about him. Touchdowns, 35%, 34.8, man. So, he rushed the ball. He only had one rushing touchdown through the air, but like I said, he had 15 on the ground and was certainly productive, especially in the red zone. So some PFF stats here. These are some really cool stats that I like to throw out here, courtesy of PFF, to give them the props. Runs 15 yards plus. He only had 11. I'd like to give some comparison to these numbers. Kenneth Walker had 30 this year, and Breece Hall had 22. Two other high, backs that are going to the NFL for some comparison. So he wasn't, White wasn't the most explosive player, but certainly had some explosive runs throughout the season. Yards after contact, really important number that I like to look at, 3.38 as a comparison is to Kenneth Walker led the nation last year in this department with a 4.46 yards after contact, and Tyler Algier came in second with 4.16. I like to give you these comps just to put you in perspective as to where White ranks among the other running backs headed to the NFL. Missed tackles, love this, right? Everyone wants to miss tackles. Let's talk about elusiveness and all that good stuff, right? He had 44. Again, for comparison, Kenneth Walker again led the nation with 89. Brian Robinson from Bama had 79. And one of my favorite running backs, again, Tyler Algier, had 76. So missed tackles are 44. So that's kind of telling you he's not the most elusive guy, and I think you're going to see that when we do get to the film room. Gap zone runs, like to point this out as well, because I know NFL draft scouts are really, this is one of the things that they look at with these running backs, the experience that they have in both of these systems. So he had 70 gap runs and 112 zone runs. So it's good. He has experience in both, which is super important. All right, let's take a look at his analytical profile. All right, so he's got a dominator rating of 31.8. Pretty good. Nothing great, but it's not bad either. It's pretty much in the sweet spot of what we look for. As far as weighted dominator, he was 29.9 again. That's weighted a little bit more towards touchdowns, but nonetheless, both very good numbers for him. Yards per team attempt, 1.82. Anything above a 1.7 is above average. Anything above a 2 is typically elite. And very, very good. So he's in there, right? He's above average in that. He was certainly a productive player. We saw that from his stats that we just kind of talked about. His projected 40 time, 4.46. It's probably, on the internet, that's where it looks like he is got people thinking that he's going to run at the combine. His weight adjusted speed score is 106.14. So again, he's going to have that good speed. And, with the weight adjusted, anything above 100 is really good. So 1.0614 is good in that department. His BMI is 26.94, and this is kind of where I have my concerns with Rachaad White. Okay, typically for NFL backs, the successful backs, if you go back and look at history, BMI is usually around 29 to 31.5, right? That's like the sweet spot between the height, the weight, and the mass that these guys have, lower body strength. And I think this is where Rachaad White might come up just a little bit short, at least for me. All right, so his strengths, he caught 43 balls in 2021. Certainly productive. I think he showed that he can catch the ball. I think that's why this guy is kind of ranked in so many running back ranks right now, is because he has that ability to catch the ball. And there were some spectacular highlights, floating out on Twitter for a long time of some great sideline grabs, and got this guy on the map. All right, he took over the backfield. That's another thing a lot of people like, that he basically kicked Trainum to the side. But nonetheless, Trainum actually transferred out of Arizona State and is now converted to linebacker. So not sure that's like a huge strength, but nonetheless, and he's going to be a third down guy, right? As we know in our dynasty leagues, man, we love PPR guys, right? We like guys who can catch the ball, and that's going to, put him above other backs in this class that really haven't had a history of catching the ball. But that's that can be a false narrative sometimes. I wouldn't get too caught up in that, because we find a lot of guys who didn't catch balls in college nonetheless go to the NFL and have success. His weaknesses, this is where, my concerns with Rachaad White are, that most people aren't, but they are for me, is his height and weight build. There are not a lot of guys that are 6'2", 210 at productive running backs in the NFL right now. If you go and look at everyone, Najee Harris is 6'2", but he's 233 or something, and Derrick Henry's 6'4", but he's 240 something. So, he's got that height, but he doesn't really have the solid mass, on that frame, and that concerns me. He runs upright, and we're going to see that when we hit the film room here shortly. Doesn't really lower his pads and move the pile very much. He runs upright, which lends him to getting hit very, top heavy, which isn't great. And he played for Pac-12 defenses. And you're going to see on this film, and if you really go back and watch a lot of film on Rachaad White, man, there are missed freaking tackles all over the place, right? So I think that inflated his stats a little bit. And we're going to see that on the film. But nonetheless, man, let's get right to the film room. Let's meet Corey in the film room. Again, one of my favorite guys. And let's take a look at his film, and I'll meet you on the other side. All right, man. Welcome to the film room. I got one of my favorite Devy analysts with me again today. It is Corey Pierre, one of the dashboard creators and contributors. Corey, man, thank you again for joining us in the film room. We today are going to talk about Rachaad White, exciting running back from Arizona State, man. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to take a look at this guy. He's been getting pretty high in some lists we're seeing out there, especially among the community on Twitter and stuff like that. So let's dive in here and see if maybe we can reaper this guy, or we're going to like this guy. Let's see what's going to happen.
Well, it's a 50-50 toss-up, right? All right, so let's get to it, man. So, all right, first thing we're going to take a look at is his vision and patience. All right, we're going to run through the clips. You guys know the drill right now, and we're going to just kind of take, again, it's all about not really at the second level, yes, but more at the line of scrimmage. What does he show here? Good cutback.
Yep.
Don't see a ton of bursts, though, coming out of this break, but...
No, definitely not. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more. I actually thought he was over patient sometimes, where he, can't really decide at the line what he wants to do in some of these clips. But like in this one, it works out for him pretty well. I think patience is something he excels at. I just think sometimes he's a little over patient. But you'll see in a lot of these clips, he does pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I agree with you on that. You know,
Yeah.
showed some nifty footwork there. Like you said, some patience going around there. Nice cut back here.
Yeah. Sees the defender coming in, is able to stop, cut back inside, let the defender pass him. This is a nice run.
Yeah.
Yeah, puts his foot in the ground. Good cut. I did think there was a hole right up the middle there he could have took, but
yeah. But again, he pressed the line pretty good. He did manipulate this defender a little bit by kind of hugging his guard and left tackle there.
Yeah, and he had enough speed to get away from that guy, number 42. I mean, it was a bit. It wasn't the greatest angle he had on him. He created a pretty good angle by getting away from him there, but
thought that was a nice cutback. What I don't like about this particular play, though, okay, now decent cutback here. Like why he's falling at the end here.
Yeah,
like I don't know what that's about there. Like what do you? He wasn't touched. I don't know what.
And now that was another example of where I kind of think some of that overpatience might bite him in the ass at the next level. He kind of like takes a little bit, like that's going to close in a lot faster on him there. There's going to be more defenders there than he thinks. But right there, that was done nice. Yeah, he was able to see nothing there, hit the cutback. I do think, and we'll get into footwork a little bit more. Maybe some of these clips won't be in it, though, but sometimes he takes a lot of steps to get going the other way.
He does. We're going to see that in next, but like, I think he could have gone outside here, not here, but right here. There's all this space down here from a vision standpoint in the second level, but he just goes right into like contact when I think he had a little ability on the outside there.
Yeah.
Here's another play. Again, I wanted to include this one. Because I think he had the ability to go outside, make this defender miss, right? When we look at running backs, we looked at Jerome Ford a little while ago and we saw how well he manipulated defenders. I don't see a lot of, I think White runs to open space and just runs forward. I don't know if he's really, computing and thinking of how to make defenders miss.
I had the exact same note. There's two more clips in here where he kind of does the same thing. But it's the exact same thing. He just lowers his head at the second level sometimes, or like indecisive, or can't figure out what to do. Sometimes this is a nice run right here, though. I do like
that
this
is a nice run. Yeah, that was a good run.
But I think it's this one right here where, he has a one-on-one with that defender to the right, and we were just talking about one-on-ones before, and make this guy miss and do something. Instead, he just kind of falls right into him. Like, I don't understand why. Yeah, I didn't really understand that one.
Yeah, like this one here, he could have maybe pressed a little bit, showed some good lateral.
You even see a hole kind of in between, where I guess his lineman kind of falls in there anyways. But yeah. And then this one too, his toss right here. If you pause it, he sees that already. Like pause it right here.
Yeah,
he sees those guys. You should be cutting inside. Yeah,
you should be going up top here. You should be going where the devil is up here, right?
Yeah, exactly. And instead he just
stops and so I don't think his vision is great. So let's talk about his footwork and lateral quickness. Again, I thought this was a really nice play on his part.
Yeah,
this was one of the best again, jumping all over the place. It's not the crispest footwork I've ever seen, but it's not the worst I've seen either.
No, and like we were saying, he does take a few more steps. He does seem to take a little more to throttle down and throttle up again than some of the guys that we've watched. But yeah,
this one here, a lot of footsteps to throttle down, like you said.
Yeah,
and
it's just not as sudden as some of the guys we've watched. Yeah, see, it's a lot of footsteps though, but it works. I just don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to work entirely at the next level with a little bit better athletes, but it is a lot of footsteps.
This was a little, a lot of steps here.
Yeah. He almost would excel better just making the one cut and go. Even though he's not a one cut and back, he has a pretty good jump cut, but it's almost like he would be more ideally suited for just making that one cut and going.
All right, so here's another play. Yep. Okay, this is again, what footwork do you got to beat this guy, and he has the inability to do that.
Yeah, and he almost starts too early. Like right here at the 20, he's already trying to duke him out, and it's like you're not even close enough to him to do anything to him, and he loses some speed there, and then he can't get away. So
A lot of steps there,
yeah.
and that side step that we saw there as well.
Yeah, it's a
A
lot
lot
of
of steps on the yeah.
steps.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a dead leg, so I agree with you. His change of direction skills are gonna be average for me
Yeah,
as a rate.
definitely. The whole footwork and lateral ability is kind of just 50-50 for me. I mean, even inside the tackles, it's a lot of clunky footwork. It's here, like, you know what I mean? He can't decide what he wants to do, gets hit, and he just kind of tries to drive forward. But
Well, this is gonna be a good segue into our next, trait here that we're gonna look at, you know, the contact balance and strength, right?
yeah,
We're going to get to in a minute, but again, some decent footwork here again, but too many. I don't think there's a necessary like. Well, he doesn't need to shuffle his feet in the very
yeah,
beginning of this play. I mean,
yeah,
he should just be hitting that hole, seeing the hole, and he's just like indecisive, like you said, coming through
yeah,
here. And he leaves himself open for big hits. So let's look at his burst and long speed before we get to his contact balance and strength. Um, I thought this was like, yeah, relatively nice play by him. He cuts back
yeah.
against the grain, and then you saw a little burst.
I was overall underwhelmed by his burst, though, and even here getting the edge, like where was that boom? Like it almost seems like he's got one speed. He
Hmm.
hits it and he got like, I don't know. I don't see any like crazy gear changing. And in the beginning, when I first watched him, I thought he had, I thought he had pretty good, like elite finishing speed. But now when I'm looking back and I'm watching, look how close a lot of these guys are on these long runs too.
Dude, there's such shitty tackling in the Pac-12. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Look,
really, really
19's
is.
right with him. And then
Yeah,
his own 19, it might even beat him to the end zone.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like look at number 27, track him down.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't think he brings that elite long speed at all.
No.
I mean, the very little burst through the line there for me, and he's just, I mean, his build is something that I think we're going to talk about in the next trait segment as far as, his strength and contact balance, because I think that's where my issue is with him is, the way he runs very upright.
Yes.
He doesn't have that low center of gravity like a 5'11" back has. He runs very upright. Thought that was
Yeah.
just really
Yeah.
good, athleticism there. Again, here, nice shake and
But
bake.
nice, yeah. See, like that was a nice shake there. See, so you do see some of the traits he can do. I just think yes, like there like that was a nice
That
shake
was a
there.
nice, yeah. He shook him pretty good.
Yeah.
So I always like to put in clips about guys getting around the edge, and like I just there's one thing I learned about. I was one of my bigger misses was Kylan Hill.
Hmm.
And we're going to see here in strength and contact balance. One thing Kylan Hill did as a real quick note was he went sideways into contact a lot when I watched his film. And I learned from that because Kylan Hill is never going to be a dynasty asset, right? As productive as he was. And I kind of get glimpses of the same thing with Rachaad White here. I mean, the way he flips into this line of scrimmage, he runs very upright. What is that? I don't know what the twist here. Like
Yeah.
this is never going to fly in the NFL. Like you twisting like
No.
this. I mean, you got to put your head down and he just runs very upright. And I think he lacks power for his size. I
Yeah, and it's
don't
that
think
over
he can.
patience too. His feet almost come to a dead stop. You're still like behind the line. Like you got to figure out what you're going to do here. And this is what we've talked about before, where the NFL is predicated on those 3 to 5 yard gains. You need to be able to get those. Yeah, it's fun to have the big plays and the fun plays, but if you're not going to be able to get in between the tackles, push the pile a little bit, pick up those 3 to 5 yard gains, it's not going to get very far.
Yeah, like so this like hop cut is interesting. My God, the tackling is just abysmal. But anyway, so this is what I'm talking about right here, right? I'm going to speed it up and stop it right now. So, he doesn't lower his head. He runs too upright. I mean, look, he's getting
Hmm.
contacted right now, and look at how high he is. And
Yeah,
then again, he doesn't drive forward and shed this tackle. He gets twisted around, and I don't know, man. I'm just not into the contact balance and just his ability he just
yeah,
here's like a vision thing, right? I mean, why are you running
yeah.
right into this guy? I mean, why aren't you shake and baking this guy? Instead, he puts his head down and gives the guy a shot, which is nice, but you should be trying to elude that defender.
Yeah, and we saw that in some of his other tape, or when we were looking at vision before too, where the second level just kind of isn't what you would hope. But in his contact balance, I find maybe he can slip a few tackles here and there. Like you said, there's some bad tackling, but it's the driving, it's to be able to take a defender a couple of yards, like even here, whatever, that he doesn't
He
exhibit
doesn't shed. He should be able to
regularly.
shed this. Like, you got to break this. You got to run right
Yeah.
through this in the NFL. And I think I hate to use the word soft, but for his size, it's 6'1", 210. We were talking.
Yeah. And I mean, he's listed at, what is he listed at? 210 or 215, or I don't even
I
know
think
what
it's
he's listed
210,
at. But
215, but I just think his height and weight combo is there's not many guys in the NFL right now with, most running backs who are 6'1" in the NFL, they're 225,
mhm.
235 plus. Like Najee Harris is 6'1", I think, but he's like 227 or something like that. So this guy's got the height, but I don't think he's got the lower leg drive and just, I mean, again, he turns sideways here in the
Yeah.
lane. And what is that? I don't. And this is what Kylan Hill did, and I learned from my miss on Kylan Hill. I think that's what the
Mhm.
NFL said. Kylan Hill did this a lot in his Mississippi State film, and I'm not going to get fooled. I'm not going to get bit again on that. But again, I just this particular play drags some tacklers a little bit, but
Yeah, a
just
little bit
didn't
of leg
really
drive
drag.
there too, which wasn't too bad. But no, it's not one of his best traits.
That's right. Now, pass catching. I'm going to just come out. I think the Twitter echo chamber is alive and well, and there's been a lot of tweets put out all year long about some spectacular catches this guy has made. Now, this is why everyone loves Rachaad White, is his pass
Mhm.
catching ability. We went through the stats earlier in the show. Excuse me. I mean, so again, it has the ability, but didn't he's got that ability, lacks a little strength there, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be used on third downs, but I really question his ability to be used on first downs.
Yeah.
Here's again a perfect example. Again, he catches the ball out of the flat. There were some downfield receptions, but this I don't understand. Like, why aren't you going inside on this guy? And instead,
Mhm.
he does this
The
twist and
spin
turn,
again. Yeah.
the
He
spin
does
again.
do that a lot. That's a great point.
It's
It's
littered
littered all
throughout
over his
his
film.
film. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's just that ain't gonna fly, man.
No,
It's
no.
just that, so he's got good hands. You can't take anything away from him. But again, he just, I don't know. I think he
No.
just lacks the power and the size. I think
Yeah.
again,
And
good
I mean
hands.
to be positive here though, I do think that if you're going to try to look at pass catching backs in this class, at least top of the class, um your Kyron Williams, your Brees Hall, and your Rachaad White are probably the top three, in my opinion, of the best pass catchers. And Rachaad might honestly be number one on that list, just as a pure pass catcher. I mean,
Hmm.
we can go back and forth about talking about maybe Kenny Gainwell or whatever being maybe the same thing, but he was smaller. So
Yeah.
the comparison isn't necessarily perfect, but I do think that's one thing he excels at way above this class. The adjustments we saw in some of those balls. He's a
Right.
natural hands catcher. So
Right. Yeah. So I got him outside my top 10. I know we just did a show with the top 10. I think he was out of the top 10 for a lot of the guys on the Devy dashboard on the consensus ranks. But there's
yeah,
guys out there that love him, man, and think that, from that pass catching ability, that's kind of where we went with Gainwell last year, right? He was number
yeah.
5 or 6 probably in the class because everyone was enamored with, his pass catching. But man, you got to be a pass catcher, but you got to run in between the tackles and be able to do that. And I think I have questions on Rachaad White's skill when it comes to, being able to do that in the NFL. So, hey, Corey, man, it's been great. I appreciate you jumping in the film room with me, man. It's always great to grind film with you. And I'm sure we'll see you again on many, many future shows. Thanks for joining me today, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Brandon. And always a good time watching these films with you.
Yep. All right, man. I hope you enjoyed that film grind. You may or may not agree with me and Corey, but nonetheless, it's a great film grind for you to make your own decision. Because as I've said on this show and many others, when it comes to the rookie drafts, dude, man, you are making your choice. You have my opinion, you got a bunch of other guys' opinion, but when it comes down to it, you got to make the call. So let's talk about his draft capital real quick. I think he's a day 3 pick. I'm thinking round 4, 5, 6, something like that. I can't see him getting into day 2. As far as his dynasty projections, I look at him as a third down back who might be an admirable fill-in if the starter gets hurt, to run in between the tackles a little bit for a game or two or to spell the starter. But I do not see this guy coming in and at all getting an opportunity like Elijah Mitchell or that everyone's looking for that guy, right? The later round guys that who could be that diamond in the rough to run in between the tackles. I mean, this time last year, everyone was all over Kenneth Gainwell as this wonderful RB 4 or 5 in the ranks, and playing for my Eagles. They don't even use him in between the tackles because he just doesn't have that play strength to be able to do that consistently. So I see a similar role for Rachaad White as being like a Kenneth Gainwell, a guy that's going to come in, be a good backup, and be able to produce on third downs. And he's going to have to really, I think, learn how to pass block a little bit better, especially to go in on those third down opportunities. So pro comp, I get asked all the time about comps. I'm going to come right out and say it. I stink at comps, but nonetheless, I'm going to give you one anyway. And I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon. He's 6'1", 215. Again, I'm going to go with a similar build. And if his ceiling is Melvin Gordon, man, then I am wrong and everyone else is right, and he'll be a decent dynasty asset, at least for a little bit. I think his floor is probably a little lower than Melvin Gordon, but I don't know. That's my overall take for him, man. I mean, there's other guys in this class that I like better, but Brian Robinson and Tyler Algier, guys that got that frame, got that mass that I think have better ability to run in between the tackles and have the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield too. So Rachaad White, I'm probably, like I said, lower than most guys, but that's okay. Everyone has their own opinion. So I hope you enjoyed the show, man. Again, if you enjoyed the show and you hit that subscribe button, I got tons of these coming out. Probably going to be dropping 1 or 2 a week of all of the guys headed to the NFL draft between now and April. I got 3 months. I'm going to be dropping a ton of these films. So thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little bit, and I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks.